My daughter is spoiled and made us get in a fight with her grandparents, causing my wife to get stitches. She still thinks her actions are justified. Okay, so, background. I, 40M, am married to a 38F. We met in high school. My wife's parents are terrible and completely abused her until she moved out at 18. My wife has always tried to be a good mother and break the abusive cycle. We both have good jobs. They want for nothing. We tried not to spoil them. They have chores, know their manners, and are good kids in school. So, my daughter came home one day and asked us to go visit her grandparents' house. We said, yeah, because we thought she meant my parents. But no, she meant my wife's. My wife immediately said no. Then I backed her and said they will have no part in their lives. She said I was overreacting and that she deserves to meet all her grandparents, and we were being selfish. My wife was diagnosed with PTSD and still sees a therapist due to all that she went through. It really annoyed me, and I sent her to her room. I talked to my wife and said that I should tell her what happened so she understands why we are saying no, that her parents aren't good people. My wife was reluctant, but agreed as long as she didn't have to be there so she wasn't triggered. I went to my daughter's room the next day and I talked to her. I said, look, I understand you are upset, but we are not saying no just to say no. There is a lot you do not understand, but I'm going to explain it so that maybe you understand more. Your mom's parents were abusive. She was humiliated daily, screamed and terrorized since she was 6 years old. Every moment and holiday was ruined by fear, and she almost died on Thanksgiving Day due to her stepfather. Your mom and her sisters still suffer from the trauma, and we will never have a relationship with them. I hope that you understand now. Something along the lines of that I told her and thought she understood. Anyway, it was my wife's birthday a week ago, and she doesn't like celebrating, honestly, but does it for us. It was actually a really great day. My wife's sister and our 2 other children and my whole family were there celebrating at our house until around 7 at night. A knock at my door and my daughter went to answer the door. We figured it was a friend of hers, but when she came right back in the living room, it was my shitty mother-in-law and father-in-law. My wife and her sister both froze, and they came in like they own the place, trying to be buddy-buddy. My wife asked them in a timid voice, "What are you doing here?" They said, "Our granddaughter invited us." She then tried to speak up more and tell them they needed to go, but they wouldn't. I got up and went between my wife and them and said to leave. They are unwanted here. My daughter really stood up for them and said that she talked to them and that mom just exaggerated what happened and that they were good parents. That's when my father-in-law said, "That's right. Whatever we did to you ungrateful kids, you deserved." That pissed my wife off, and she shouted to leave. I went up with my dad and we were going to push him out, but he's 6 feet 5 inches and 250 pounds at least. He got us off him and he pushed my wife into the wall. Her head hit straight back at the wall. She had to get stitches. As soon as that happened, me and my dad and brother forced him outside and said they needed to leave or we would press charges. Her mom kept saying that she was a good mom and my wife was dramatic and she just had bad children. Anyway, my mother took my wife to the hospital because we were still trying to get them to leave the driveway. My mother brought her there and back. Once they left completely, my wife didn't say anything the rest of the night besides thanking my mother for the ride, then going to our room. Her sister was really freaked out too and left right after hugging my wife. My children were in the living room and I told my son and my younger daughter to go into their rooms. I needed to speak to their sister. I admit I lost it. I screamed, said she was so selfish and I couldn't believe she did that she still got into contact after I explained what they did to her mom when she was younger, how I was honestly disgusted with her. She started to cry and say she genuinely thought I was exaggerating and it would be good for them to get together. She said she got in touch with them on social media and they seemed great, how they made everything seem not as bad, and she said she didn't think they could be that evil and be related to us. I told her there are evil people everywhere. We have just tried to shield her away because parents are supposed to protect their kids. I was so upset. I genuinely wanted to call her an idiot, but I didn't. Every move my wife did to move past her trauma was demolished by this idiotic decision. My daughter apologized and I said sorry doesn't cut it. Her actions risked her mother's health and everyone's safety. My wife talked to her and said that she no longer trusts her and how these are the consequences of her actions for meddling in something that was not her business to meddle with. She has no more phone and no more visiting friends until she earns that trust again, and we can add a punishment we see fit. I've comforted my wife as much as I can, but she's not great while I think honestly I went too easy on my daughter. I figured I should have other opinions. Edit to clear timeline. My daughter sought them out after I told her what happened during her mom's childhood. I asked. She said she reached out first as well. My daughter is 16 years old. Update. More information. We did make a report and are pressing charges and will be doing everything we can to get a restraining order. We didn't call the police because we live in a secluded area and it would take too long for them to get there. We deleted all my daughter's social medias and I did look at her text between her and the in-laws. She reached out first and kept pursuing them. There were 3 messages before that my in-laws ignored until they eventually responded. Also, that was not the first conversation we had with her about my wife's parents. It was just the first in detail conversation. I told her specific scenarios and events that happened without getting too graphic, but she and my other children always knew that their grandparents were bad. We had multiple talks growing up when we first started to explain why they only have one set of grandparents, unlike most of their friends. But we never said anything in specific details about the actual events, only that their grandparents were bad people who hurt their mother and aunt a lot. She told me she's doing her best and feels bad for distancing herself from her daughter, but she's just extremely hurt. My wife's going into more therapy sessions than she normally does, and we have set an appointment for my daughter to see one as well. We will try family therapy to get back to normal. Anyway, did not think this would get so many views. Thanks for all the advice. My wife's going into more therapy sessions than she normally does, and we've set an appointment for my daughter to see one as well, and we will try family therapy to get back to normal. Anyway, did not think this would get so many views. Thanks for all the advice. Story 2. I will never speak to my family again. I, 17F, will never speak to my mom or sister again on my next birthday. Growing up, my parents were great. That was until my mom threw it all away and decided to cheat on my dad. My dad divorced, and the affair baby, my sister, 10F, was soon born. I was 7 at the time. In the court, my mom somehow managed to get full custody. I think she played dirty and brought up past issues my dad used to have. He had a substance abuse problem before I was born. My dad doesn't really say anything bad about my mom, however. He says that there is nothing he can do and we just have to work with it for now and wait till I'm 18. I see my dad once a week on the weekend, and I get to spend 1 week a year with him every summer. But I am stuck with my mom the majority of the time. My sister is profoundly disabled to the point where she requires assistance for everything. She is useless. Since she was born, all my time outside of school has been dedicated to her. I stopped learning the piano, going to friends' house, playing basketball because I had to help her. I have been wearing the same clothes at home for the past 3 years since my sister has priority over everything. Dinner only once she eats. I don't know why I call her my sister. She should be half-sister, but she is not even worth that. My dad used to pay a lot more child support than required for the first 2 years after the divorce, but 90% of the money went to my sister, so he stopped and started paying the minimum. Still, Only 10% goes to me. I don't blame him for this. Why should he support an affair baby? He tried to take my mom to court about not using the child support correctly, but it was unsuccessful. Only in the past 3 months have I managed to get a bit of time to myself without having to take care of the affair child when I'm not at school. I told my mom I had to spend a couple of extra hours after school 3 days a week. She initially refused, but she accepted only because I told her I needed it to prepare to get into a good college so I could get a good job to take care of my sister. I lied. Instead, I go to my best friend's house. Her parents are super understanding. My mom doesn't even care enough to even check if I'm at school. I also go to my dad's best friend's house every day, sometimes just for 5 minutes, because I don't have sufficient equipment at home, and if I take it home from my dad, my mom will sell it for some new thing for my sister. My dad leaves all my stuff at his friend's house, which is 10 minutes away from where I live. Every day before and after school, I go there to change and get stuff, and his family has also helped me with my college preparation. I have found a college near my dad's house, which he will pay for and will let me live there. My mom knows nothing about this. She thinks I am going to a college close to home and will continue to look after my sister with her. She is oblivious, but then again, even if I made it obvious at home, she wouldn't notice. I will be free in 2 weeks, and I will live at my dad's friend's house until school finishes, and then I will move to my dad's since it is far from school. I will never speak to my mom or sister again after that. I can't wait to spend more time with my dad and his family. I have a stepbrother who is the same age, who is amazing, and we will go to college together. He actually makes me feel happy and I like spending time with him. My dad's friend has bought a small electric piano so I can play it once I go there, and we have found a basketball club for me to join. It will be great. I won't be burdened by my sister again. You can call me a monster since she didn't ask for this life, but I don't care. I didn't ask to have to take care of her. My life has value too. Just because she suffers doesn't mean I have to, so that the playing field is leveled. My dad is amazing. He also won't have to be financially responsible for a child that isn't his once he stops paying child support for supposedly me. My mom and sister will probably struggle enormously. They might even go homeless. I don't care. I will not know them in a fortnight, but it's not like they know me or really care about me. I'm just a slave to them. I hate my sister, not for what she is, which is nothing, but for ruining my childhood. I hate my mom more. I hope she becomes homeless and a more worthy family can live in the home, not this abuser. I will be free in 14 days. I am currently at my dad's friend's house right now. He and his wife are more like parents to me than my mom is. They actually ask about my dad and care about my feelings. I am lucky to have such great people on my dad's side. There is no one on my mom's side. She had no siblings, was outcast from the rest of her family when she cheated and didn't abort the baby. None of them wanted to have to deal with my sister. If they didn't do that, I might have had a childhood. But at least now my mom will have to deal with the consequences of her adultery herself and can't enslave anyone else. I don't blame my mom's family for abandoning her. They're quite clever for recognizing early on that my mom would just rely on them all the time. My dad isn't just the fun dad who gets to look great. He actually cares about me. When I'm sick at school and I need to get picked up, he would drive an hour to do it or get his friend to do it. My mom couldn't do it since she was busy or needed a rest after looking after my sister. My happiest moments in the last 7 years have all been away from my mom and sister, and I will be able to have that all the time soon. My dad has organized therapy sessions for me to help me settle. He's also organized a trip for 2 weeks during one of the holidays, which will just be between me and him since we've missed out on a lot because of my mom. I hope she suffers.